Now to the latest in the war in the Middle East here. Moments ago, Benjamin Netanyahu warned that Israel is prepared to escalate military action against Hezbollah, a result of the terrorist group's attacks coming at them in the past few days. Also back here, stateside, the U.S., the House passed a GOP bill that would impose sanctions against that International Criminal Court. You may recall the top prosecutor recommended war crime charges, issuing an arrest warrant against Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. To discuss this and also the latest at our southern border in Biden's executive order, pleased to bring in our panel, host of the President's Daily Brief podcast, former CIA covert operations officer and the current CEO of Portman Square Group, Mike Baker, joins us today, alongside former Air Force Special Operations Commander and national security expert Glenn Ignacio. Guys, good to have you both with us today.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
So we know that Israel is trying to eradicate Hezbollah, also Hamas. There is this now sanctions for the ICC, which was such a distraction. The White House said it was deeply concerned about the ICC action. And all of this as our biggest ally, Israel, is trying to move forward. Such confusing times with this administration in particular, Mike. And I think the whole world is watching, including Iran, which adds another layer of complications.
Yeah, the ICC, the International Criminal Court issue is kind of a sidebar to all of this, and I think it's interesting that it's gotten probably more bipartisan support in Congress than most things do. You had a significant number of Democrats signing on to agree with the idea of sanctions. The White House, of course, pushing back against it. But look, on the bigger picture here, there's increasing activity up north along Israel's northern border with Hezbollah. And look, Hezbollah has been lobbing rockets and they've been exchanging fire across that border ever since 7 October. But Hezbollah is a different animal from Hamas. It's a more structured, it's a better resourced military operation than Hamas. And I think, despite the national security minister in Israel pushing for, war, and doing what he normally does, which is pushing for more aggressive action, I think they need to take a breath here and think: do they really want to be on this multi-front operation? They're already engaged in the most complex urban operation, counterterrorism operation that we've seen in modern times in Gaza.
You're right on all of that, and I'll let you pick up some of those threads, Glenn, but also let's remind our audience that Hezbollah, there's been concerns from Christopher Wray about its abilities to strike within the United States, and actually it pertains to our wide open southern border. As we know, they've actually been in Mexico. Iran uses proxies actually through Mexico as well to try to attack us here on our home front.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and everything Mike said is absolutely correct as well. And they're much more of a significant threat because they're much larger, in the hundreds of thousands just in north of Israel, attacking Israel. But at the same time, the FBI already put out a warning of heightened alert within the United States because of the open border, and they specifically called out Hezbollah. So what we have to worry about is, as we've talked about, all the getaways and how many millions have come over the border, it's how many of those individuals that are either terrorists, state-sponsored, cartels, a tremendous threat that has come into the United States. And seeing that kind of link from Hezbollah is definitely a dangerous and concerning thing that we really need to pay attention to in our country.
Even yesterday, with Merrick Garland on the stand, national security came up. There's concerns about the terror threats in our country. At the same time, Joe Biden says, I'm going to sign this executive order, which is many rightfully point out as a political stunt, Mike. These are some of the numbers here. They say they'll shut down 2,500 daily average. At one point under Obama, they said 1,000 people entering is a crisis. We've had millions here entering our country. I don't think at this point anyone, logically can look at this order from yesterday and think Joe Biden's doing this out of a care for our country. But maybe there is a select few who are not clued into what's really at play here, Mike.
Yeah, no, look, okay, frankly, any action's better than the inaction that we've seen from the Biden administration over the past 3 years. But I think there is no doubt that they're doing this, ahead of the 27 June debate with Trump. They've got to have something that they can point to, right? When the question of the border comes up during that debate, and of course then there's an election in November. But the biggest issue here is depending on what numbers you look at, anywhere between 8 to 10 million coming in across the border, and about 2 million of those known gotaways. Now, those are the individuals who we don't have any idea who they are, right? Because they didn't encounter law enforcement, because they made the effort to not turn themselves in or encounter law enforcement. So you have to assume, you have to assume that some of them are here for nefarious purposes.
Yeah, well, the numbers I'm also looking at is how much the cartels have been going up in their money as well, clearly controlling our southern border, and more money than in the billions, more than you can imagine. Guys, I got to leave it there. Wish I had more time. Mike, Glenn, appreciate you both.
Sure. Take care.
You bet. Good to see you.
Great to have you in. Still ahead, President Biden interviewed by Time magazine, and he is, quote, demanding credit for his foreign and domestic policy achievements. What do real Americans think? Newsmax's own Mike Carter hit the streets. We'll tell you what you and others